Sad dog stared out the window every day until his owner wrote the neighbor an unbelievable note. The 1,000-yard stare. 3 times a day for about a year, Casey's dog would stare longingly out her window, his unyielding gaze burning a hole deep into her neighbor's living room. At first, the proud pet owner thought that her dog simply wanted to go outside for a walk. But time and time again, every attempt to pry her peeping dog away proved futile. Casey had absolutely no clue how to help her dog. What could he possibly be looking at? Then, just like that, her dog totally snapped. That's when, after being stalked for nearly a year, her neighbor took a stand. And boy, did things get weird. Humans and animals are a lot alike. As it turns out, humans and their pets really aren't so different. Just like in the human world, there's only one reason we would willingly do something as ridiculously irrational as staring out the window every day for a year. Love. You're probably thinking to yourself, animals can't fall in love, and you're certainly not alone in those thoughts. A lot of people believe animals can't fall in love like we do. So if you weren't convinced by the sweet love scene from Lady and the Tramp that animals can fall in love, just wait until you hear this. What's he staring at? It began when a user of Reddit, Casey, began noticing some strange behavior in her dog. Every single day, her dog would stare out the window. It wasn't the usual watch traffic kind of stare. He was staring at something very specific. Casey had no idea what could possibly be keeping her dog's attention for such a long time. Was it a person or a thing? It was hard to tell since Casey wasn't at home all the time to see what it was that was getting all of her dog's attention. He wouldn't stop. Most of the time, Casey was busy going back and forth to work and running errands, but she was determined to figure out what it was that her dog was obsessed over. Casey first thought it was a squirrel or maybe a family of squirrels, but there aren't any squirrels around. On her one day off work, Casey would stay home most of the day to finally solve the mystery. He wouldn't stop. While watching television, Casey noticed something. Her dog was staring into the neighbor's window, and sitting in plain sight was the neighbor's cat. Could this be what the dog was staring at the entire time? Casey didn't bother her dog and just observed the two. The cat sat in the window and seemed to be staring right back at the dog. This went on for 2 hours. Casey looked over at the neighbor's window, and the cat was curled up in a ball, sleeping while the dog continued to stare. This was getting weird. Her dog didn't even like cats. Not so different after all. Even though people believe that dogs and cats come from 2 completely different worlds, they're not as different as you think, and actually have a few things in common. They share some of the same personality traits, and despite what you think, get along quite well. Even though there's rumors that say dogs and cats can't be friends, nothing could be further from the truth. If you find that hard to believe, you haven't seen anything yet. Could it be? Casey continued to observe. She wanted to know if her dog was getting the attention in return. Later that day, she noticed the cat was sitting up and staring right back at her dog. Casey continued to watch the 2 animals for days. She smiled when she realized they'd stare at each other for hours at a time. Was the connection she was seeing real, or was her imagination getting the best of her? She had to find out, so Casey did something that most wouldn't do. Something changed. It became a regular occurrence for Casey to walk downstairs to find her dog staring out the window at her neighbor's cat. She became so used to it that one day she realized something was off. Her dog wasn't at the window. Instead, he was lying on the floor. This was unusual. Maybe your dog was sick. Then Casey looked at his food bowl and noticed it was still full and untouched. Casey decided to wait a day or 2 to see if her dog had any other symptoms. And that's when her dog totally lost it. Trip to the vet. Casey's dog was acting out in ways she'd never seen before. A quick trip to the vet revealed that the dog wasn't sick. In fact, he was in great shape and up to date on all his shots. This was weird because her dog was usually in great spirits, but he continued to act the same way by lying on the floor and looking very depressed. Casey mentioned how the dog had been staring out the window at the cat for many weeks, but the vet just laughed. The vet asked the usual questions about diet, activity, and changes in sleep. Nothing appeared to be wrong with him. That is, until she got home. Nothing helped. When they got home from the vet, the dog immediately rushed back to his usual spot on the floor. He didn't even bother to look out the window. Casey took a look and noticed something very different. Of course something had changed. There were tons of potted plants in the window. They were blocking the view, so her dog couldn't see his friend anymore. Why didn't she notice this before? And just like that, Casey came up with a surefire way to solve her dog's woes once and for all. Consumed by sadness. Casey tried doing many things to break the sadness. She played with him, took him for as many walks as she could, and even bought him new toys, but nothing seemed to work. The dog would take treats, but then he continued to mope. Nothing Casey did would help. He continued to be sad and wouldn't respond to Casey at all. That's when she had enough. Casey decided to bet everything on one last-ditch effort. Running out of options, she knew that she still had one thing she hadn't tried, even if it seemed a little crazy. Tried one last thing. For a lot of people, they'd just throw in the towel. But Casey wasn't like most people. As a self-proclaimed animal lover, Casey saw how happy the cat made him. So she knew she had to try anything to make her dog happy again. She decided to take a chance and reach out to her neighbor about the cat. Hopefully this would work. It might seem a little insane, but what this woman did for her canine BFF, and in the interest of love, will bring an ear-to-ear grin to your face. She wrote a note. Casey had hoped that her neighbor was understanding. They really didn't even know each other well, but it was worth a try. She decided to write a note to her neighbor describing the events she witnessed over the past few weeks. She asked the neighbor to remove the plants so her dog wouldn't be sad anymore, and taped the note to her neighbor's window. She wasn't sure how the neighbor would respond, but she sure didn't expect a response as wacky as this. The wait was agonizing. Casey had no idea what to expect from her neighbor. She only hoped that her neighbor didn't think she was certifiably crazy. Even though she loved her dog, Casey had to live next to her neighbor for quite a long time and didn't want to be known as that weird guy with the dog. The neighbor didn't wait long at all to reply. Casey received a reply the next day and couldn't believe the way her neighbor reacted. For true love. Her neighbor was quick to respond with a note. They were more than happy to remove the plants and did so immediately. Her neighbor agreed that love was more important than household plants. They would soon find out if the love the animals shared was real or just a fluke. Would they continue staring at each other through the window now that the plants were gone? Or did the time away from each other cause them to lose interest? Back to love. The animal owners were happy to find that their furry friends went right back to their daily routine. And Casey was pleased to find her dog's good spirits had returned. Now that both owners knew of their pet's long-distance relationship, they look forward to seeing them at the windows every day. So as it turns out, cats and dogs are capable of so much more than just friendship. In fact, they could definitely teach us humans a thing or two about love. Marley and Tickles. As a burly Alaskan Malamute named Cody and a gray and black kitten named Michigan prove that with a little enthusiasm and a whole lot of persistence, a truly solid bond can be formed. When Michigan was only a 10-week-old kitten, Cody instantly took the kitty under his protection. He would even allow the kitten to claw on him and make herself at home on his massive coat. Whenever the kitten decided to use his fur as a scratching post, noble Cody put up with it. And when Cody became sick with cancer, Michigan never left his side, even going as far as protecting her friend from stray dogs. This friendship was a fantastic example of courage and dedication to the end. Ruth and IDGIE. Ruth the cat and IDGIE the dog, named after the famous friendship in fried green tomatoes, are an unstoppable duo with a fierce bond. Found abandoned together, IDGIE was her feline counterpart's bodyguard from the start. Today, however, these street fighters share a cozy home together where IDGIE and Ruth are living the good life. Charlie and Scout. While this cat and dog friendship story may not be the most cheerful one, it is without a doubt the most touching. Charlie the dog and Scout the cat had a friendship like no other. Everything, and I mean everything they did together. So as you would expect, once Charlie had passed away, Scout never could go back to his old carefree ways. In fact, the poor cat can't even sleep unless it curls up next to a computer playing old videos of Charlie. This goes to show that even in death, the friendships forged between a cat and a dog can run very deep. happily ever after. It would be amazing to say that Casey and her neighbor fell madly in love while connecting over the love their pets shared, and it would make an even better story, but this isn't the type of story Tom Hanks would star in on the big screen. Now that I think of it, why isn't the pet story being turned into a big movie? I'm sure lots of people would love to see this incredible story of love get turned into a movie. I mean, who doesn't love animals? And who doesn't love love? Did this change his mind? Were you one of those people that didn't think animals could fall in love? If you had a furry friend, I'm sure that this story made you think twice about that. Even if your friends don't believe you, make sure that you share this story with your animal lovers in your life. In the state that the world's in right now, we could all use a little more love in our lives, especially a love story that doesn't have to look a certain way.